Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Lucy Clarke with us. She is co-founder at Fixed Construction. She's helping construction companies find skilled workers. So we're going to talk about that today. She's in UK and we're going to have lots of fun discussing her entrepreneurial background and how she got there, because she started at companies such as Goldman Sachs, which I've extensively studied and very much catches my interest still up to this day. This podcast is brought to you by my cold email AI company that's called topleads.agency. If you want to book your calendar with more than 75 meetings per week, you can hit us up at topleads.agency. Lucy, welcome to the pod. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and Fixed Construction?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Charles. So I guess a bit of background on me. As you mentioned, started my career in investment banking at Goldman Sachs in London. Didn't have a kind of education in finance. I actually studied classics at university, which is Latin and ancient Greek. So was a little bit of a steep uphill climb when I arrived in my first job at Goldman, but it was a great experience and had learned some great technical foundation skills and spent almost 4 years there before moving into the venture capital world. I then spent 2 years at Octopus Ventures, which is a London-based fund managing around 1.8 billion of AUM. Where I was focused on investing in B2B software and B2B marketplace businesses between seed and Series B. Again, awesome experience, but working with companies really showed me that I actually wanted to be more operationally involved in businesses, and kind of led me to the conclusion that I wanted to start my own business. I found it just slightly frustrating always being operationally at arm's length with companies that I was investing in. Could never really make the change I wanted to make if there was the case, or and wanted to have like real impact. So started Fixed earlier this year with actually one of my co-founders is also my husband, and a third co-founder. So we started Fixed, which, as you mentioned, is a company that connects construction companies and skilled workers in order to, with a long-term vision of solving the skilled labor shortage for the construction industry. We have vision to be a global business, but at the moment we have the massive UK market in front of us, for which there are lots of kind of tailwinds in the industry as well.
Is there a labor shortage in the UK too? And is that also the case in most European countries?
Yes, definitely. There's for sure a shortage in the UK. I think that's been also heavily impacted by Brexit. And so obviously with Brexit, we saw kind of between 200,000 and 300,000 people having to leave the UK and work back in the EU. So, for us, this means that while there were already shortages, because we're seeing an aging workforce in construction, even before Brexit, this has meant that the shortage has become a lot more critical, which for us, we see as an opportunity. As for now, construction is a very traditional industry, doesn't necessarily look for kind of new solutions and new ways of working. But now, because the shortage has become a lot more critical to the industry, they are very much open to new ways of doing things, new ways of finding people. And it's so necessary now that we use the liquidity of workers that we have most effectively, in order to actually meet the demand of the next kind of 5 to 10 years.
The idea that you had, so you were in the investing capital world, or investment banking world, should I say, you had various sources of data coming your way, probably had startups in the construction field that you studied. How did you get the idea, and how did you knew that, this was a potentially very interesting market from a product market fit and growth standpoint?
Yeah, no, I love that question. So when I was in the venture team at Octopus in particular, I found myself I wanted to invest in companies that had a positive impact on either people or planet. So ended up spending a lot of time looking at labor marketplaces. So that was across sectors, ended up and found some amazing, really cool businesses globally that are starting to see this kind of verticalization of labor marketplaces. So in the US, there's Workrise, which is a verticalized labor marketplace for oil and gas industry. Also got Incredible Health, which is just raised a more than 1 billion valuation last year, around $80 million, which are doing it for kind of hospital workers. And in the UK, we obviously have coming over from Europe, Job and Talent, which is a blue collar labor marketplace, also multi-billion pound business these days. So I was seeing this kind of trend, and at my stage in investment team, was looking at the earlier stage businesses like Florence doing it for care workers, Zen Educate, an amazing business doing it for teachers and teaching assistants. And I just was seeing this trend come up again and again, was really excited by the model, seeing it scale really quickly, and obviously showing such strong value proposition to all the parties all the key stakeholders in the transaction. And actually, it was when I went home one day and I was telling my husband, Henrik, who was in the construction industry, about some of these other businesses that I was really excited about. And he was like, wow, I wish we had that for construction, because this is the issue we're facing on the company side. And by the way, all these guys that I know can't find work. And, I know all these job opportunities available, but they're just not able to be found by the hirers. And so that's when we started to build out our thesis. So it was very much a kind of joint effort between him on the kind of with the domain expertise in construction, and me with the kind of tech and marketplace experience on the finance and VC side.
Very interesting. And I see all these jobs, 965 of them the last 4 days. That's quite a lot. How do you make money on the back end? Do you make money on the person that's trying to find a job, or the business, or both?
Yeah, so at the moment we make money just from the businesses. We never charge the workers for our services, and that's a free for them to use. With a big vision to, empowering workers to be able to have more choice and transparency over jobs that are available to them. So what we've built, and it's more because we know we will charge the companies, first we need to be able to have the workers on our platform to be able to show the companies a strong value proposition. So for now, we've built a free product that allows workers to find jobs on our database. And so how we've done that is we've built a scraping tool that aggregates jobs from lots of different sources across the web. And we're the largest aggregator of jobs in the UK already for the construction sector that we are in. And that means people who sign up can already get value from the platform before we even have our own jobs that we're monetizing from. So we then make money when we basically work with companies who ask us to do the additional checks that come with hiring a worker in the construction industry. So it's not as simple as find me a carpenter. In the industry is very specific. So they will probably need a carpenter who has done a certain type of jump form, for example. They need to have worked on an SK50 jump form, and they need to have this type of experience. And so we're building the kind of algorithms and AI behind that matching system. And so it has to be kind of a lot more specific in terms of how you find the people. And so we monetize when companies come to us specifically and hire us to find those workers.
Right. And what's your fee? Basically, is it the typical recruiter's fee, which is like 10% of what they earned the first year, 15? Like, how does it look?
So we have two models, one that looks like that, exactly as you described. There's a little bit of an intricacy in the construction industry in that the workers are self-employed. And so so when we first started, pitching to companies this model of like 10% of their first year's salary, they're like, okay, but what if we hire an engineer through you guys and then they don't like the commute and then they leave on day 2 after we've paid you £15,000? And so we're like, okay, fair enough. So that fee, when we charge it, usually vests over the period of the worker's tenure. And that's to kind of de-risk it from the company's perspective of paying an upfront fee for a worker that has, the freedom to leave whenever they want. We also have a model that's more kind of a traditional agency fee model. So for the period that the worker is in the business, we charge a margin on top of the worker's daily rate for the period that they're in the business. So say we're on a 4-month project, for the 4-month period, we'll see a recurring fee for the daily rate of that worker.
What does the reality of the construction worker looks like? I spoke with a guy on the pod not so long ago, and he had a startup for treating depression amongst construction workers, which had one of the highest suicide rates. Apparently his startup closed down. Maybe like people didn't want to open up about these things in the construction realm because it's really a man's world. But what is the reality of working in construction? You get up early, you work long hours. It's a physical job. There's a lot of demand for it. You can get paid somewhat good money, but isn't the risk of injury omnipresent? So what's the potential of career there? What's the potential of growth?
Yeah, no, it's a really important issue. I think the kind of, I guess, quality of life that you would get in the construction industry. First of all, I'd say it's a very, very broad industry. So there's probably millions of opportunities you could find within it. But for the sector that we're targeting, so in the kind of trades and that kind of end of the spectrum where people often are doing like heavy lifting and are doing very physical manual work on site, it can be extremely demanding. And as you said, in the UK last year there were 2 suicides a day within the construction industry. So the mental health weight that people are facing in the industry is extremely high. And as a business, we would obviously love to do something to try and have a positive impact on that side of things, even if it's building community. We're already organizing kind of community events like football games to try and bring people together in the industry. Not that playing football necessarily will solve the problem, but you can only,
it will help.
Yeah, it will help to, especially for people who maybe have come over here who don't have that many friends or family living in the country, who have pre-settled status from Brexit. And they basically work all day, all weekends. They never take a break. They maybe commute a long way, and they're doing very physical, heavy work on site. I think it can be very tough. And the other piece is that a lot of people are living from paycheck to paycheck, and if the work dries up and they can't find something, that could be the difference between them being able to pay their rent or not. And so part of our mission is to make sure that people always have access to those job opportunities. And it's crazy that in a worker shortage that we have so many people that are in that predicament where they can't find work. And every day the news is saying like, we have a shortage, we need more people, and we have all these people here looking for jobs. We get messages 10, 15 times a day asking people asking for work, and it's just crazy that we can't yet actually fulfill that. Sorry.
What are your top goals for this year? What are you focusing on?
So this year, so we raised our pre-seed back in May this year. And so we kind of built our goals on the back of that to make sure that we're able to kind of raise our next fundraise. So we're planning to raise a seed at some point next year. We already have our first paying customers on board, which is really exciting. And we're learning a lot from that process and actually automating a lot of the kind of back end of the delivery to them while we work with them. And that's the best part of this experience, is that, the construction companies don't necessarily have to see a huge amount of behavioral change to work with us, but we are kind of making the process of recruitment 100x better in the back end, meaning that we can charge lower prices, get the workers better rates, and the companies have a better experience. So our aim for this year is to onboard our first kind of 3 to 5 companies, and obviously continue to grow our revenues, prove that we have the product market fit with those companies, by actually building the product that actually works for their processes. And we start to see kind of repeat orders from those as well. We also want to continue onboarding workers and showing that we have sustainable and cost-effective ways of worker acquisition, which at the moment is looking really good. And we're starting to see that kind of hockey stick curve that VCs are going to love. But we want to see a few more months of that so that we can really show a really strong value proposition to companies.
And where do you reach these construction workers? Facebook ads, Insta, TikTok?
Yeah, we did this big exercise based on Gabriel Weinberg's book Traction. I don't know if you've read it, but everyone who hasn't read it, definitely read it. Amazing book. And so we literally started from square one and started building out these channels and just testing. And we thought when we first, started, like Google ads would be just like, really punitively expensive, and Facebook ads as well, and all of these other paths. But, testing all of these different avenues, we found some really great, effective ways of acquiring people. And obviously with construction, it's all about finding people where they are, where they hang out. And so, we've done a lot of work, on site as well, making sure we're actually getting feedback from people on the ground, and understanding what they want and where, what kind of product works for them. So I would say, it's a combination of kind of offline at the beginning when we're just getting our first product to a really effective place, as well as, Facebook and things like that.
Right. Where can people find out more about you, Lucy?
Yeah, obviously very, very keen to chat to anyone who's interested. So they can always email me at lucy@fixedconstruction.co.uk. They can also find out more information on our website, LinkedIn, and we are building out our socials at the moment as well. So please check us out on there.